Now, okay, sorry. I repeat. Studying health and social issues with social representation theory. Andreea Hutul, the role of social representation in the psychological distress caused by gambling.
Thank you.
30 minutes? Okay, and after... No, okay. 20 minutes and 10 minutes of questions, okay?
Okay. It's okay? It's okay? It's okay, okay.
It's okay.
Hello.
Perfect.
Hello everyone, my name is Andreea Hutul and I'm glad to be here today with you to have the opportunity to present my advancement on PhD project. First of all, I want to mention that my main supervisor is Professor Andrei Holman, and my co-supervisors are Professor Temis Apostolidis and Emanuel Filo. My PhD project is entitled The Role of Social Representations in the Psychological Distress Caused by Gambling. Okay, here we can see the points that I will present in my presentation. So I want to begin the presentation with the reason I chose this topic. In the slide, we can see some prints from newspaper that highlight the negative outcomes that gambling has on people's life. For example, suicide. I think that gambling is one of the most problematic social aspects related to addiction. In addition, a study on Romanian population shows that depression predicts gambling in the proportion of 26%, while anxiety predicts 31% of gambling variance. We already know that excessive gambling can lead to financial difficulties, relationship problems, and psychological distress. So, based on this information, the aim of the PhD project is to integrate social representation theory in the involvement in gambling field. How we can do this? Truly examine the external factors that influence the link between gambling involvement and the outcomes this practice has on both the individual and society. So, to achieve our goal, we propose 3 studies. The first study has the aim to explore a deeper understanding of Romanian social representation of involvement in gambling and to study differences based on socio-demographic variables. In the second study, we propose to develop a psychological instrument aimed at measuring the social representation of individuals involved in gambling. And in the first study, the aim was to study the social representation of individuals involved in gambling and other psychological variables. But I will present it later. Okay, so I will go on to the first study. This study was published in Discover Global Society Journal. I will present briefly because I presented it in Venice in the winter school. But the aim of this study was to investigate the social representation of gambling addict in a sample of Romanians and to compare its content according to participants' gambling history of gambling, involvement, life satisfaction, and gender. Okay, so here we can see the results of the multiple correspondence analysis, but I want to highlight that the multiple correspondence analysis extracted 2 factors. The first one explains approximately 59% of data variance, and we can see the defining words for this factor. For example, for semi-axis negative, we had defining words such as addiction, frivolity, maturity, responsibility. And for semi-axis positive, we had words such as antisocial, depression, gambler, greed, and luck. For the second factors, this factor explains approximately 29% of data variances, and we had defining words for these factors such as laziness, trauma, victim, or for semi-axis positive, debt, financial loss, frivolity, and mercy. Okay, so this was the first study, and based on this first study, we will go on to the second one. In this study, we aim to develop a psychological instrument aimed at measuring the social presentation of individuals involved in gambling. So, based on the results obtained in the first study, we developed 32 items, and in the slide we can see some examples, such as engaging in gambling activities often leads to financial losses, or individuals who frequently engage in gambling exhibit immaturity, and so on. Okay, then we conducted an exploratory factor analysis with extraction method, principal component analysis, and rotation method, oblimin. Then the items were selected or eliminated based on their factor loadings. Then we conducted a confirmatory factor analysis. The initial model fit indices were inadequate to meet the required standards, and we removed some items in order to obtain more adequate model fit indices. Finally, model fit indices were adequate to meet the required standards, and we had the instrument has 5 factors with 18 items. And here we can see the factors such as irrational behavior, personality defects, positive effects, negative effects, and mental illness or suffering as a factor. And we can see one example for each of the factors. Okay, so to summarize, in the first study, we investigated the content of the social presentation of gambling. Next, based on the results of the first study, we developed the instruments measuring the social representation of gambling. And what's next? Next is the first study where we will include this instrument for social representation of gambling among other psychological concepts. So, I will go on to the first study. This study is in collaboration with Professor Apostolidis and Professor Fino. Okay, this study has the aim to study the indirect effect of gambling-related cognitive distortions in the relationship between social representation of gambling and problem gambling. Okay. To this study was involved 326 participants. The data was collected through Google Forms, and of course, before completing the questionnaire, all participants were invited to read the informed consent statement and information related to data collection. Okay, in this table we can see the instruments that we used to measure the concepts. What I want to mention is regarding the social representations of gambling instruments, that we use the total score of social representation of gambling, and this means that a higher score of the higher score indicates a more negative social representation of gambling. Okay, the results. We use the process in SPSS 26. We used model 4 to investigate the potential indirect effect of cognitive distortions related to gambling on the relationship between social representation of gambling and problem gambling. The results suggested that the direct effect was significant, and cognitive distortions related to gambling had a significant and a negative indirect effect on the relationship between social representation of gambling and problem gambling. So we can say that a positive social representation of gambling may increase the risk of developing gambling-related cognitive distortions and engaging in problem gambling. So I will mention a potential theoretical and practical implication. From a theoretical point of view, our results contribute to the social representation theory, of course, contextualizing it within the framework of gambling addiction. And from a practical point of view, our results reveals that depending on the social representation, individuals may engage in practices that suggest public policy interventions and preventions. Okay, and that's all. I will appreciate your feedback on my presentation. Thank you. It's okay.
Very much time. Some questions. Okay.
I just would like to have a clarification on what you call problem gambling.
Problem gambling. I will go to the instruments. Okay, it is these instruments, problem gambling severity index, that measure if the person has a problem with involvement in gambling. So if the involvement in gambling is problematic, it's
Problem gambling is about people who are gambling.
yes, involved in gambling. Yes.
Mauro? Un momento di microphone.
Thank you. First of all, thanks. The project is more clear.
Thank
The different studies, how they interact with one another. So looking at the previous presentation is more evident, the direction.
Thank you.
I have a couple of methodological comments.
Okay.
Again, for you.
Yes, yes, of course.
So basically, here, you start trying to identify the different content, and out
Yes.
of this content, you created a questionnaire which was then validated through
Yes.
exploratory and confirmatory factor analysis. So in my opinion, rather than an instrument to measure social representation, I would rephrase, but there is also conceptual distance, as an instrument, if you want to go in that direction, an instrument to, let's say, operationalize the different dimensions
Okay.
of representation that we are hypothesizing. Okay. Because it's interesting that in this instrument you have five
factors.
Five dimensions. So you are saying the social representation of gambling is built around these five dimensions, at least in our context. Irrational, personality, positive affects, etc. This instrument try to operationalize in a quantitative way the five dimension, so the field. In the other study, you are not measuring again the social representation, but you are measuring the individual endorsement of each of these five dimensions.
Okay. Yes.
In this way, and that's the second comment, now you are using a single, for the analysis that you presented, you are using them as an overall index. Okay.
Yes.
Positive, negative.
Yes. Yes.
It's clear. So in certain sense, at present you summarize. Now you say, okay, I'm measuring, let's say, the endorsement of a more positive or a more negative vision I hope that you can further develop the analysis because you could do this on each single dimension. And again, rather than using it as a dependent variable, in my opinion, it could be interesting to use some multidimensional techniques like multidimensional scaling or factor correspondence analysis factor. So rather than looking at how the other variable affects the endorsement of one single dimension or of each of the subdimensions, we could try to detect if there are similar profiles. Those who consider gambling or those who endorse a vision of gambling as irrational but positive and suffering, so keeping together the different subdimensions. Those who have this profile are also those who suffer more.
Okay.
You see, conceptually
Yes.
it's different because rather than working on the variables, what I'm suggesting that you have to discuss
Yes, of course.
with your supervisor and hopefully also with the co-supervisor. Rather than looking at the relationship between the variable, you could try to identify different profiles, which from our perspective is also similar, closer, let's say, to a social dynamic approach. Who in the society endorse this, and what is that psychological, sociological, cultural anchoring, or reason, you could say, of having that profile. Sorry, I took.
No, it's okay. It's okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I have one question. In your opinion, gambling is a practice, right?
Yes.
So you are studying a social presentation of a practice.
Yes.
Have you planned to study if gambling is practice, to compare level of practicing, of experiencing gambling in your projects?
It is an interesting idea. I don't thought of this idea, but I will discuss with my supervisor, and it is.
You should choose.
Yes.
The expert gambler.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the naive gambler.
Okay, thank you very much.
Because the experiencing of gambling maybe
Can influence.
useful because the experience of gambling can generate or emotion of or joy if there is winning,
Yes.
or
Yes.
anger, sadness. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
For me?
Alright.
I think for all.
Yeah.
And now,
Okay.
Tudor-Daniel. Okay.
Thank you.
Allora, sì, applauso. È partito. Allora, the role of social representation in the psychology of distress caused by, in this case, pornography use.
The one, no?
Yes. Cos'è? Si illumina su, se muore.
It's parallel.
Mm-hmm.
You can publish one book. 2 sections.
Thank you. Okay, I will move with this. Right. I guess. Perfect. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Oh. Perfect. Okay. Hello, dear professors. Hello, dear colleagues. I'm glad to be here again in front of you to present my advancement of my PhD project. I'm Tudor-Daniel Hutul, as probably you already know, and my research project is the role of social representation in the psychological distress caused by pornography use. My main supervisor is Andrei Corneliu Holman, and my co-supervisors are Temis Apostolidis and Emanuele Fino. So, this is a little overview with what I'm talking about today. So, I will start with the background, after this the aim of my PhD project, just a briefly reminder about my PhD, and after this I will present you my free studies. So, what is my background? I'm a psychotherapist. As well as I'm a clinician, and in my private practice, I observe the practice of pornography use and much clearer the negative outcomes of consumers, like depression, anxiety caused by pornography use. And at the moment I'm going to the literature and I saw a major gap. The major gap is here. This is the more well-known theoretical framework about the pornography use and negative outcomes. You can see in the middle pornography use, and here at the bottom the distress, interpersonal, relational, and spiritual. This model proposed by Joshua Groups is about two pathways. The first one is, we can say, a more objective one, with individual differences more objectively, like impulsivity, low self-control, coping deficits, attachment style, seeking sensation, and so on. And the second pathway is a more subjective one with moral incongruence and moral disapproval of pornography. The main gap here is we have religiousness shown as an only predictor of moral disapproval. But at the same time, we know that there are some atheist people that moral disapproval of pornography, and this model doesn't discuss this. But I will come back here after some slides. Okay, but what is the relevance of my topic? How is pornography used viewed from a clinical perspective? Probably the first assumption is to integrate pornography addiction here, at the behavioral addiction, of course, not a substance use. But if you deeply search in the literature, we can see that we don't have pornography addiction neither in DSM-5 or in ECD-11. In DSM-5, we don't have anything in the sphere of sexual behavior or sexual practices, but in ECD-11, we have compulsive sexual behavior that can be expressed in a variety of practices of behaviors, including masturbation, use of pornography, cybersex, and so on. But we see that we can diagnose this use of pornography like a normal addiction. Why? Because what makes an addiction? Among other things, of course, frequency. But who can really say when pornography is too much? Like, if you watch pornography 2 times per week, you're okay. And if you watch 3 times, you're addicted. No one can that you are pornography addiction. So, because of this, we cannot clinically speak of pornography addiction, but we can talk about self-perceived addiction and about individuals who describe themselves as addicts. Like, okay, if I watch 1 time per week, I can express depression or anxiety or some negative feelings about my practices. But at the same time, a friend of mine who watches everyday pornography, okay, I don't care what's the problem. And main question, why do some people experience negative outcomes from watching pornography while others not? How can pornography users come to experience negative feelings? So, like I said before, from moral disapproval, because the use of pornography is a common practice and individuals consume pornography even if they consider it morally wrong. And if they watch pornography despite their moral disapproval of moral incongruence caused by pornography use, they can experience psychological distress. So we're going back to the literature and this model. I want to mention that before this theoretical model, the morality relating constructs related to the use of pornography were in the best case neglected. But some authors from the literature, including Valcourt-Morel or Bergeron, both from Ottawa University, says that, okay, moral disapproval of pornography can stay just in religiousness. We can, the moral disapproval of pornography can lay in, I don't know, maybe feminism, maybe in social conservatism, or maybe in family values. Or, of course, so in social factors such as social representation of a pornography consumer. So, let's move forward again to the aim of the PhD project, to integrate the social representation theory into the most well-known theoretical framework on pornography, the PPME model, pornography problems due to moral incongruence, which I presented to you before. So, let me take some coffee, because let the show begin. This is a little map of my free studies. The first one, which I presented to you already in Venice, was published in a high-impact journal, is the social presentation of pornography consumers among individuals in a romantic relationship and blah, blah, blah. In this study, I want to mention that the research question was, what is the social representation of individuals regarding pornography consumed in relation to gender, relationship satisfaction, and sexual satisfaction? This is the participation procedure, 875 individuals, all involved in a romantic relationship. Okay, this was our measures. For pornography consumer, each participant was asked to write the first, the second, and the third word they associate with the notion of pornography consumer. And for the second and the third concept, relationship satisfaction and sexual satisfaction, we use some validated psychological scales, relationship assessment scale, and just one item for sexual satisfaction, but one item who already showed their psychometrical properties. This is our results. You can see here some words associated with gender, like imagination, timidity, weaknesses, crazy, insecurity, and so on. And here for female, we can see vulgarity, without faith, without inhibitions, and so on. So, what are the main conclusions after the first study? We applied the free association technique, we explored the content of social presentation of a pornography consumer in a Romanian sample, we identified both positive and negative aspects of social presentation, we discuss how social representation contributes to the moral disapproval of pornography and psychological distress resulted from the use of pornography, and we published the findings in a high-impact journal. This study was the basis for our second study, like Andreea has, where, based on the factors revealed by the first study, we create an instrument with 33 items. The questionnaire was administered, and then the factor analysis revealed 3 underlying dimensions. For gambling was 5, for pornography just 3. This is our dimensions: denial of culpability or exoneration, 3 items. Example, pornography provides diversity in people's sexual lives. Immorality, individuals who view pornography are often those without hope. And mental illness, view pornography is considered immoral. This is the result of our exploratory factor analysis. We employed the rotation method of limb. The items were selected or eliminated based on their factor loadings. And this is more results about confirmatory factor analysis. The initial model fitting is more inadequate to meet the required standards, and some items were removed in order to obtain a more adequate model fit indices. Like I said before, 3 factors and 12 items for the social representation of pornography consumer. The main conclusions are and future directions. Okay. We derive several factors of social representation based on first study results. We develop initial of 32 items instrument grounding in these factors. We conduct a factor analysis, reducing the instrument to just 12 items and 3 dimensions. We nearly complete the instrument developed manuscript. We plan to submit the manuscript to a peer-reviewed journal probably within 1 month. And in parallel, we're going to the first study in collaboration with Professor Emanuele Fino and Professor Temis Apostolidis. This study is also work in progress. This is our proposed model. Pornography, a direct relationship between problem pornography consumption and psychological distress related to the use of pornography. But in this case, not a mediation, a moderation of social presentation of pornography. This is the participants procedure. Of course, that we have an ethical approval for our research because the topic is a sensitive one and can cause some negative thoughts to individuals. This is our measures. For the first two concepts, we use already validated instruments, problematic pornography consumption, PCS from Beata Bote, who is in Moral and Budapest as well, and Kessler psychological distress scale, and of course our instrument, social representation of pornography, like Andreea with her gambling, a total score of social representation indicates a higher score, indicates a more negative view of social representation of pornography. This is our results. We use SPSS 26. We applied model 1 to investigate the potential moderating role, and the results suggest that the direct effect of problematic pornography consumptions on psychological distress due to pornography was moderated by social presentation of pornography. Okay, and regarding the moderating effect, at the highest level of social representation of pornography, the association between problematic pornography consumption and psychological distress was stronger compared to those with a moderate level of social representation, like a neutral view of watching pornography, and at the lowest level. So, main discussions from the study is that negative social representation amplifies the effect on problematic pornography consumption on psychological distress. In other words, the more negative the social presentation is, the greater psychological distress experienced by individuals who consume pornography. This can lead us to some theoretical implication and some practical ones, like, of course, integrated the social representation theory in a more comprehensive theoretical framework regarding problematic behavior. So we combine the Moscovici theory with the theoretical framework PPMI. And regarding practical implications, our findings can be useful for psychotherapists, clinicians, or other mental health workers, and of course for some public policies like non-governmental organization who has the aim to encourage a healthy sexual life or a healthy sexual practices in general, and so on. So this is my last slide with conclusions for the first study. We integrate the new social representation instrument into a broader body of psychological measure. We found that social representation may contribute to a psychological distress, and in this case, we can integrate social representation theory in a more clinical way. And we are in the early stage of developing the manuscript. After we submit the second one, we aim to complete and submit this manuscript probably by the end of the year, because we need to write just a more deeply the theory and the main discussions, because the part of the analysis is already done. So that's all, folks. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me.
Thanks. I take the chance of the fact that you finished saying about the publication to say to everybody, please remember to update the IRIS platform.
Oh, oops.
Please. Now you're going toward also the advancement from the second to the third, but also from the first to the second, and also for those of you who are in the third year. So the report of the activity takes directly from IRIS the fact that you have done something or not. So if your IRIS platform, for Sapienza, I know that Sapienza is not the ruler of the world, but if your IRIS platform is empty, for them it means that you have been doing nothing. And for us, it means that the PhD has done nothing. So next year, why should they fund it? So it's
I promise that I will update my IRIS platform tomorrow.
But for everybody, I know it's complicated. We have different platforms, different way of reporting things, but everyone is evaluating the other. No? So it's a self-helping attitude. So please do it. Sorry for the bureaucratic. Okay, now coming back to your research. More or less, the comment is, if you want, the same. No? So we discussed it already in Venice. The idea of using social representation as a variable needs to be better framed. No? So if it is the individual positioning on a social representation, or the individual measure of a social construct, then we can discuss, but in my opinion at least it's more acceptable to use it so it's not the social representation that affect the relationship between the other variables, but if you want the individual profile, and again you can evaluate if different methods can help you to consider multidimensional. So the individual orientation that has a role in moderating the relationship. Or it could also be interesting to see if the relationship itself changes. So individual with different profile
Over time, like longitudinal studies,
or in a comparative way, rather than using it as a continuous variable, doing a split. So a group of individuals that has this profile has this kind of relationship among the other variables. Maybe another group would have
other
a
results.
reverse path. So like doing a intergroup analysis rather than an intragroup analysis. But then you can play with the analysis as you wish. But for me, the most important part is the idea that we can't use social representation as a variable, so we must clarify if it is the individual endorsement or an individual profile.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. I had a question not on the theoretical level, but more, let's say, on the phenomena you analyzed. I have heard about this trend of a more ethical use of pornography. At least in France, it's something we are starting to talk about, social communications. And I was wondering if you think about interrogate this part of pornography.
Yes, I'm sorry, what is ethical?
Like,
I'm not too much into that.
Probably legal pornography.
no, legal pornography, obviously, but pornography that does not represent, like, how can I say in English, a bad vision of gender stereotypes in pornography. Yes, I think I'm not very clear about the definition of it, but at least it takes these aspects you just said. And do you think about interrogate this kind of pornography, use of pornography?
In other study, I used a scale to capture the type of pornography. But in that study, something like 96% of the individuals watch just a regular pornography or a normal one, and based on the findings from that study, I make the conclusion that okay, if someone watch pornography at the internet, in the major cases are legal, or probably if I measure again this concept. I just the individuals just see okay a long questionnaire, but with
Maybe something more qualitative, like with
Yes.
feminist pornography, this kind of.
Yes.
Yes, but in this case we have like 875 items, so it's more difficult to capture this in a sample like this. But of course, in a qualitative study, we can do this.
Would be interesting to have
Yes.
like a paragraph in the thesis, no?
Yes, of course.
Alternative.
An alternative vision, and of course major limitation of this study, because if we are going to a quantitative quantitative study, of course we can capture this, but this mention it is very important to write in the limitation part and the recommendation for future studies.
Okay, first I will very simplifying. So much more people are using or practicing pornography use, and they share, activity or the moral disapproval of that. They will feel distress, right?
Yes.
This is the thesis. Okay. My question is because you started with the issue of the clinical part. And you said that there are more theoretical and practical implications. What are the practical implications for you? So if we have this status.
For me, as a psychotherapist and as a clinicians, in my private practice, I can discuss the social representation, and based on the social representation of pornography, I can make my therapeutical intervention for the individuals who express psychological distress. So if you have a negative view of pornography, probably you don't need to watch pornography in your life, because every time when you will watch pornography, you will express depression or anxiety and so on.
So it's
It's a fundament for the intervention.
Grazie.
Slide when you talked about the relation between the bad social representation of pornography and the distress. And I guess I'm thinking that maybe this is an hypothesis. this kind of relationship is related to your attitude to have a social conversation and social relation about these things. The attitude to talk with friends or in family or make jokes about it. Maybe it's related. Do you have explored this? Plan to explore this?
Yes, after the study, for the fourth one, I want to test other variables among social representation, like family values regarding the use of pornography, the level of social conservatism, or even if the feminism, because this concept can be intercorrelated when we talk about pornography consumption.
I think the suggestion here is also, we are done now.
Yes.
I think that the suggestion here can be also to consider social representation. Here you're really using an individual level of explanance, as Wagner would have said. So the individual level of data. Here, I think the suggestion is also to consider something more interactional. So the fact that I make jokes on this is part of the practice in itself. So it's a way in which I share with another implicitly for example, a negative vision, like something for the pervert or
the personal practice, the personal view, or like if the family makes jokes about
both. So it could be interesting to see the dynamic. Maybe I don't feel problematic, but if I go back tomorrow and I say to my wife, we have been talking about ethical pornography, and she or another colleague say, but what kind of things are you doing? So these things that bring me to perceive as problematic something that so that the moral judgment that you put in your model is also an effect on the self perception, etc. So looking at this not only
based on okay, sorry. Based on your experience with your most important persons, like your wife and your parents, what they think about pornography?
I don't know, it's a taboo.
Okay.
No one talks about this. It's a taboo, it doesn't exist. After, say, 17 years old, it doesn't exist anymore. So, again, it's a silent, but it expresses some kind of moral judgment. This is maybe for my generation, for another or for my personal situation. When you open this, it changes say also the typology of data that you need. Again, more qualitative, more interactive, more situated. I don't know if it is for me or my generation or my Catholic background. I don't know what is the reason. That's where you can find more cultural and interpretive dimension.
Other question? No? Okay. We are perfectly in time, I think. Pause. 30 minutes for pause. Coffee.